I've got my pen. I've got my pad here, where I've got my notes and everything of what I want to run through. We'll just jump right into it.
Okay,
Tom,
let's go.
business and life are simple. They're just not easy.
Yeah,
Talk to me about
business and
that.
life are simple. They are just not easy. Everybody, one of the reasons why Adam and I talk about that is, because so many business owners make things so complicated and they make more complications and more obstacles for themselves to overcome. And if they just kept it simple, it would be easier, but it's not really easy to go through all of that pain and suffering. It's not always easy to persevere. It's not easy to have all that grit. It's one of those things where it's very simple. It's just not easy. I think as a business owner, I was in the corporate world for 22 years before I became a full-on business owner. And this is probably the toughest job that I've ever had, but it's also the simplest job that I've ever had.
What about the aspects of life? So it's not just business is simple, but it's business and life are simple but not easy.
Yeah, I think it's the same philosophy. Life is it really is simple. It does not have to be complicated. We make it complicated with how we respond to our ego and our judgment of ourselves and what we do with our comparisons to other people, and the behaviors that we form are really what make things complicated. We there's inherent stuff that as we develop our personalities and we experience things, we respond to certain situations in different ways, but we develop all of these habits, and sometimes our habits become very, very complicated. And if we just simplified it, and I was working with a client where she has social anxiety and she didn't want to go out with her friends. And, I was like, what's the worst that can happen? She said, well, we're going to have to wait probably, and we're going to have to do all this. And I said, is that really the worst that can happen? But we just make life so much more complicated because we're worrying and we bring the anxiety in, and then anxiety produces overwhelm. And that's what complicates it. But if we just kept it simple, it wouldn't be as difficult to get through. But it's still, because of our habits, it's not easy to go through those experiences.
How can someone keep it simple? How can they simplify it for themselves when they are complicating everything, from their business to their life?
We like the 2-option approach, right? Like anytime you have to make a decision, pick one or the other. Don't complicate it by adding 3 and 4 different things to it. It's one or the other.
It's yes and no, not
yes,
maybe.
No. Choose this, choose that, right? Like you want. What do you want for dinner tonight, Steve? Do you want Mexican or Chinese?
Oh, yeah. Carne asada I'm making tonight.
That's it. It's you pick one of those 2 and you go with it. That's what it is.
Yeah. So I'm going to jump around already. We're 2 minutes into it, and I'm already going off the rails from my pre-planned order here. But I think something that you said leads into this better than my prior conversation, which is you talk a lot about limiting beliefs. You talk a lot about, and maybe this is ways that people complicate things, but the limiting beliefs that business owners have and just people in general. What's like the number one limiting belief that you see in all of your clients across the board?
A lot of people, don't always believe that they can achieve the success that they're worthy of. And that's like the biggest obstacle that I see a lot of our business owners need to overcome is that once they start to do something and they develop this imposter syndrome because they find somebody else in their field or their industry that's doing it better than them or different than them, and they start to, the imposter starts to come in and you don't feel like the expert, and then that's attached to your self-worth and how you feel about yourself. And what happens is you wind up, convincing yourself that you're not that person. You're never going to be that person. But, Adam and I talk about believe, behave, become. You have to believe what you want to become. And then you have to adopt the behaviors in order to become that. and working through the beliefs that get in your way. You know, a lot of people have beliefs from their childhood. That's where we form most of our beliefs in this world, in this lifetime, is in what our parents give us and what we experience as kids, and you know, and what people tell us about ourselves. Like, I was told by a professor in college even that I would never make it in medicine. And I defied that by going to PA school, practicing medicine for 8 years, and then going into healthcare administration for 15, and rising all the way up to a C-suite executive level position in the healthcare world. So, like, screw you, you know, Professor so-and-so, because I fucking did it. You didn't need to tell me that I wasn't going to be successful.
Yeah.
But if I had believed what she said and adopted that belief for myself, that would have limited me from achieving the success that I did have in healthcare. And, you know, it's the language that we use too that really plays a significant part in our limiting beliefs. Is whenever we say the words like can't and won't and don't, whenever we say we won't do that, or we don't do that, or we can't do that, those things are signs that you're forming a limiting belief. You know, what can you do? What you want to change your language and root your language in something that's more positive instead of the negative, because there's a lot that you can do. There's always going to be more that you can do versus what you can't do. But when you speak in that language of can't, you create more limiting beliefs for yourself.
So I'm curious. You mentioned the professor. That was that really your motivation through your entire life to get to that C-suite position, or was it something that you used at the beginning?
I think I used it more at the beginning to defy, like, what, you know, to defy that belief she had about me, right? But maybe maybe it was she saw the potential and she needed to unlock it, and that was my motivating factor to unlock it. But whatever the motivation, you know, it was interesting. There was 30 people that I was friends with in college that were all pre-med. And out of the 30 of us, I think 5 of us wound up actually practicing medicine. You know, so it's kind of funny. And there's people in that group that were going to medical school and then decided, no, they didn't want to do it. But I think I always had the drive to be in charge of my own destiny. I think I always had the drive to succeed, to get to the top. That was something from my childhood, because I saw my own parents struggle with money, and my dad, you know, was a high school teacher for 28 years before he went into public education, and he retired after 40 plus years in education. But I always saw the struggle of what it took, and my mom was really, she was like an aide, but she was not, you know, she didn't go to college, and she, you know, she wasn't like a full-time business person. And their struggle with money motivated me to never let money be my issue. And that's why I felt like, well, if I could go get a top job, money won't be an issue. Or if I could start my own business, money won't necessarily be an issue. And it really was more my relationship with money that motivated me to get to that executive level.
Well, my next question was going to be, how do you maintain it? But it seems like money is a very constant thing that can, I guess, maintain that motivation.
Yeah, I mean, money is nice, and you know, it's nice to have, and it's nice to be financially free, you know, and live within your means and just do what you need to do and always have the money to pay the bills. But you know, you got to be motivated by other things too in life. You got to be motivated by your passions, and you got to be motivated by what your true purpose is, right? We say all the time that our goal is to help you discover and uncover your purpose, and then align all your actions to it so that you can achieve the life of freedom and success that you want for yourself.
That's just another version of believe, behave, become. It's the
right,
same thing.
Exactly. And that's exactly it. Like, my purpose has always been to be of service to other people. Whether I did that in healthcare as a physician assistant, or I've done that as a coach, I've always been at the service of other people, and that's my life purpose, because that's what gives me the most satisfaction and the most fulfillment, is seeing other people succeed and helping other people to succeed and believe in themselves, right? The most important belief you have to have is the belief in yourself, that you are worthy, that you deserve this, and that you can achieve it, right? Those are all the ways that I try to encourage all of my clients to think, is you can be anything you really want to be. You just got to figure out how to do it. And if you don't know how to do something, that's when you hire somebody to do it. So
I'm going to take it back to what you said before about that initial motivation, the professor telling you you can't do it or you're never going to do it. That brought up something in myself that I'm curious about, because I feel, and maybe I'm just uncovering this right now live on on this conversation, but I've always felt almost the opposite pressure of being like a smart kid in school who was in the gifted programs and stuff.
right.
And I always felt that pressure to be like, oh, you're going to do something great. And almost having the self-sabotage be the thing that held me back.
Well, was it more of a fear of failure, though, that held you back?
Probably, yeah. A fear of failure, but also that fear of success that you talked about.
Right. Well, that's the same failure. That's the same fear. Failure and success is the same fear.
How? How is that the same?
So it really is the inverse of each other, right? So when you look at the fear of failure, you're afraid to not achieve what you're setting out to achieve, and you fear that failure of not achieving it. But when you achieve the success, the fear that comes into place is being able to maintain that and to continue to achieve that. So at the end of the day, it's this fear of not being able to achieve something that either you have achieved or haven't achieved thus far. So what it really comes down to, I always see it as the same thing, as, once people fear success, and therefore they continue to fail because they don't want to get to that level of success. And if you fear failure, you never necessarily achieve the success that you wanted to. But most of the time, that fear of failure is just that motivation that some of us need to be successful, right? You got to, and listen, success is failure. You can either look at, success is either, you're standing on top of the pile of your failures, or failure is you're underneath the pile of the failures, right? Like success is standing on top of those pile of failures. Because if you haven't failed, you can't succeed, because you don't know what success really looks like.
Well, that's definitely something that we've talked about in the past, and something that I've heard from you guys over and over, is in order to succeed, you have to fail more than anyone else out there. And you use the baseball analogy. We both are big Mets fans and talk baseball all the time. You use the analogy that, like, the greatest hitters of all time, get out 70% of the time. They'll strike out 30% of the time and then ground out and pop out the other 40. It's right. And then 30% of the time they're succeeding. If you can do that in business, if you can do that in sales and getting new clients, that's a pretty damn good success rate, 30%.
Yeah. And if you have a 30% success rate, you're going to be a monster. You're going to be a monster, and that's how you have to see it. But like Adam and I often say is you have to be willing to fail more than everybody else to be successful. I mean, I have failed so many times in my life. Like, when I look at everything that I have done, I mean, you think about, all your failures, but you fail every day in some way when you make a mistake, but it's not really a failure. It's just a mistake, right? You mistook whatever that opportunity was or whatever that decision was. And the failure is if you fail to learn, right? That's ultimately what it is. That's ultimately what failure is when you miss that opportunity to learn something.
Keeping
right? FAIL is first attempt in learning. I never, that's not my thing, but FAIL is first attempt in learning. And that's how you have to see your failures. And, I didn't know what I was doing when I started a business. I had no idea what I was doing. But what do? You learn. You come out of a comfort zone and you learn how to be uncomfortable all the time. And that discomfort is the thing that motivates you and where you need to live. And, going back to what you just said too about, being in the gifted programs, and it was expected to be successful, right? And if you didn't achieve that success, wow, you were a big failure, right? And if you didn't get there, but this is what's wrong with our whole educational system, right? That's a conversation for another
I'm right
day.
there with you.
We're still teaching archaic models of education when we should be teaching more practicality and instrumental stuff that kids could actually use every single day in their adult life, instead of us at 20 or 40 years old learning for the first time what we're supposed to do, practically speaking, in our business or anything else.
Yeah, on a quick side note there, I didn't know how to learn. I feel like I'm learning how to learn now.
Yeah.
I got to college and got my ass kicked by courses because I never had to work hard.
Right.
And I got by in high school with good grades by not doing much at all. And there were other guys or other students that were my age that I look at now who were in the same classes at me that had to work really hard to get their, 85s and 90s on their tests. And those people I see now as like some of the most successful people because they learned how to learn, they learned how to work hard at that time, and then they went to college and kicked ass, or they went into the workforce and kicked ass because the effort in the real world, I think, is the biggest thing.
That's what it comes down to is the effort that you're willing to put into something. Adam and I run this school community, and every week we do a CEO of the week, and CEO stands for commitment, effort, and obsession. Okay, because that's what it really takes to be a CEO of any business, of any company, is the commitment, the effort, and the obsession.
Did you guys come up with that one?
Adam actually did,
okay,
and
cool.
We're making T-shirts that have that on it. So
nice.
Soon to be purchased. But it really is what it takes, and I think that a lot of us learn that lesson. That those of us who have been given a gift of being very smart and not always having to work so hard for our grades in school and to do well in school are usually open to a rude awakening when they get to college and the real world, because now you have to work for it. You're not going to get by on your good looks and your charms and just your natural intelligence. You have to now apply something, and like you said, you're first learning how to do this.
Yeah.
And
I definitely feel that myself. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that feel that.
I agree, and I think that's anyone can be successful at running a business or in life as long as they are willing to learn. And this is the growth mindset that we talk about all the time. And there's four zones that people go through in life. It's comfort, fear, learning, and growth. Right? Comfort, fear, learning, and growth. When you're in a comfortable place, you've experienced what you've experienced. You're doing what you've done, and you're in a good place. And you get too comfortable, and you realize stuff is starting to change around you, and you need to take a step back. And unless you take that step back and learn something new, you're going to just stay in that, and you're going to fall behind, and you're going to be stagnant and stuck. Because so many people are afraid to going into the fear zone, right? Because when we come out of our comfort zone, we automatically go into fear. But what is fear? Ultimately, it's an advisor on stuff just needs to be learned and known and discovered.
It's a feeling,
experienced. Right? Huh?
It's a feeling?
It's a feeling. It's an emotion that we have. Listen, fear is a very important emotion. We wouldn't survive life without the instinct of fear and that emotion. And because that fear offers a ton of wisdom on stuff that we need to know and go and learn. But if you can't see that the result of your fear is the opportunity to learn something, then you miss that and you go back into your comfort zone. But if you recognize that it's just time to learn something new, you can move forward into your learning and then obviously your growth zone. And if you stay in a growth zone, you're asking questions more than you're talking. You're getting information more than you're then you're telling people about things. And that's the thing that we try to do is we just try to be forever learners. And anyone that is willing to be a forever learner in business and in life will be successful.
That's a great message. The growth mindset, that you talk about all the time. That's, I think that's something that I've been embracing myself lately, that a lot of people I'm surrounding myself with are. And those who don't have that mindset, I see them leaving my life more often than not. Just because their things are away for them and they don't change over time because they're not learning.
Right. Well, they're not learning, and you have to continuously reflect on the people in your universe and whether or not they are people who think like you or have similar mindsets like you. Because if they're not, there's going to be people in that group that try to pull you down and not allow for your growth. And you want to surround yourself with like-minded people because you want to be around people who are trying to do the same thing that you're doing. It's not necessarily the same industries or the same level, but it's everybody's trying to do something very similar in their own life.
Yeah, just the attempt to grow. That's the biggest thing that I see, or the desire to do more or do better or become a better person. Learn things and improve ourselves or our businesses or the work. Like I find that in the team that I'm surrounding myself with. I find that in the friends that I'm surrounding myself with, and the people that I want to talk to, like you and other business owners that we talk to on a just weekly or monthly basis, getting lunch or just having these types of conversations, picking up the phone. Right. It's that those are the people that I want to be around. Yeah,
absolutely.
So I have two more things. Sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I have two more topics that I want to touch on. One is purple collar professionals. Okay. I know that's another thing that maybe you didn't come up with, but something that you've embraced. So tell us, what is a purple collar professional?
Yeah, so, we didn't coin this phrase. We found it because Adam and I were literally sitting in our office back in November, and I remember the whole conversation. It's kind of crazy when you discover these things. But the purple collar professional is someone who has elements of both white collar and blue collar work involved in what they do every single day. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean blue collar by, doing, manufacturing assembly line type of blue collar work or construction. And
it's not necessarily manual labor.
It's not just the manual labor, but, I'm a purple collar worker because I have face-to-face interaction with clients and I'm physically doing some type of work with my client, right? We're having a conversation and there's one-on-one interaction. Some professionals like physical therapists have interaction with their patients and they have hands-on and they're manipulating muscles and doing all of those exercises, and they're doing that with their clients. That's the blue collar type of work we're talking about, right? And it's plumbers and electricians too who do blue collar, have blue collar tasks that they have to do in their job. The white collar elements are the more administrative elements. It's the paperwork that you have to fill out, right? If you run a restoration company and you're on a job, and 1 minute you could be tearing down a wall, but the next minute you got to do all the paperwork and all the detail to submit to the insurance company to get the claim so you can get paid for what you're doing, right? Mm-hmm. And then they try to run a lot of these guys try to run a business at the same time. And that's the whole element of purple collar coming together is that you're trying to run this business, and what happens is either you don't run the business well, or you don't do the blue collar tasks as well, or you don't do the white collar tasks as well. And what we try to get people to do is figure out what they want to do in their business, right? If you want to be the plumber and be the guy changing the pipes and fitting the pipes and doing boilers and putting in heating and water systems, and you want to be that person, great, but who's going to do the administrative back work that needs to be done? Who's going to run the operations of the business? You could still be the business owner, but you have to identify the people that you need to do all those other aspects of your business. But that's what makes you purple collar.
Well, that's the ultimate struggle of a purple collar worker, and I consider myself one, where I have face-to-face interactions with my clients. I'm going out on shoots sometimes. I'm having meetings with them and coming up with the strategies, like doing some of the work, and then also running a business, growing a team, trying to be a good leader, all of the things that come with the struggles that come with growing,
Right.
and being that purple collar professional that you talk about.
It's an awesome niche that we fell into, and it's interesting. What we're finding is we're attracting a lot of creatives lately. Like that's like in our school program, and several of our one-on-one clients. We're attracting a lot of creative individuals, and what we're finding is creatives are very artistic, right? There's a different side of the brain that they use, and they don't know how to do all necessarily the business operations pieces, but they're doing the blue collar and they're doing the white collar, but they don't know how to necessarily do the business, and we try to help them build their business and identify what they want to do in that. And so there's a lot of creatives that fall into the purple collar space as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I notice it in creatives that I work with all the time. Right. I consider myself a creative, but I think I have a little bit more of a 50-50 split as far as left brain, right brain. A lot of the creatives are just like completely left-brained, that they can only do the creative piece, and that inhibits the just overall growth and their ability to do that for other people or for themselves and make money and make a living off of it. It's like the ultimate struggle for a creative, actually.
And that's why Adam and I chose the brain as our logo.
Yeah, it's right behind your head there.
Inside the atoms circling around it, the molecules circling around the brain, and the two colors of the brain. It's kind of funny. It was white and blue that we picked for the colors of the brain, and then it turns out that white collar and blue collar are purple collar. So we didn't even know we were already picking out exactly what we were supposed to be picking out.
If only white and blue mixed together made purple. It would be awesome.
Yeah, I didn't know that, but I guess it does in whoever's mind that developed the purple collar idea. But the funny thing is that Adam and I approach coaching and business and life very differently, and that's what's one of our unique differentiators amongst other business coaches, is that we bring two different aspects to the table. And Adam, is a very business savvy strategist, and I am more of that emotional support, because more my certifications in life coaching, and being in operations for 15 years and doing all that stuff, my business acumen grew through that. But I can see all sides of it, and that's what kind of brings the uniqueness of the two sides of our brains together, so to speak.
So I'm going to gloss over this, even though there's a lot of depth to it. You work with, you work on the business, you work on the owner, you work on the person, and you set those three goals with people when you work with them in your one-on-one coaching. But I don't want to touch too much on that. Those are your, Adam focused on the business, you focus on the owner, and then the third goal of personal, you guys kind of split those responsibilities as far as helping someone have that harmony in their life, which goes to the last topic that I want to talk about, which is work-life balance.
Work-life balance, Steve. Come on.
Well, I know it's a buzzword or a buzz term. So tell me about why work-life balance doesn't exist.
It's a myth. We all struggle to, and this is what causes a lot of burnout for people, is they believe that they don't have a good work-life balance. And, work-life balance is this idea that you could actually equate things and balance things out between work and your personal life. And it's just life. Just look at it as life, as one thing. And we talk about work-life harmony. Right? It's that harmony, it's that fluidity of which everything in your life integrates together, where you're not necessarily pitting one thing against the other, but you're focused on spending the time in the different areas of your life without trying to give equal time to anything. Right? Some days you're going to give 5 hours to your business. Some days you're going to give 25 hours to your business, right? You're going to go above and beyond because you're working on something. But other days you're going to give 20 hours to your family, and you're going to give no time to your business, and you're going to meet some friends, and you're going to do that. But when we look at life as is, I'm going to make time for all of those things in my life, then I don't need to really worry about, did I give everybody an equal amount of time and get that better work-life balance, so to speak. And, like work and life, the reason why work-life balance is a myth is because we're still making people work 40 hours a week in their jobs, okay? There's a lot of studies out there that show that when you hit 40 years old, your productivity drops by over 20% after your 28th hour of work, right? There's studies out there that show that, right? So the 4-day work week actually makes a ton of sense when you think about it, right? Now, as business owners, we could never do a 4-day work week because business owners, we have to work every single day on our business until you get to the point where your business is running on autopilot and you have plenty of people working for you doing that. But when we talk about achieving work-life harmony, it really is about that fluidity for which life happens and that flow. It's a flow. It's having that harmony where you just flow through from one thing to the next to the next. And that doesn't mean that obstacles don't come up, and it doesn't mean that there's challenges that don't come up. But because you're not competing with yourself, you're able to manage those things much more successfully and with less stress. And that's ultimately what we're shooting for. Is harmony means less stress. Harmony means better flow. It means no competition. It means you don't have to stretch yourself in 92 million ways.
I think that's what everyone's after. I think you put it perfectly.
That's how we want to live life. That's what our goal is to live a life of harmony, Being able to be at my son's baseball games and still run a business, that's harmony to me.
Yep.
Being able to spend time with my wife and my daughter, and that's harmony to me. Those are the things that you still, when you make it all part of your life and stop separating it all out, you kind of achieve that harmony.
So I have one more segment that I told you about earlier. That I've been implementing recently on this, which is called the conscious consumption. It's because it came about because I started trying to be more aware of what I'm consuming, what I'm listening to, what I'm watching, what I'm, seeing on social media, the not really watching the news and doing all the things that, removing as much of the junk as I possibly can. That's not to say I don't watch Netflix or anything, because I still love to sit down at the end of the night and watch an episode of whatever show we're on at this point with my wife, and that's kind of how we wind down some nights. But just to be more aware of the fact that, like, I'm not scrolling as much on social and not doing the things that aren't really as productive. Not to be a productivity machine, but just be more conscious of it. And so I've prepared. Actually, I'm going to ask you, because I always ask the guest, what would you recommend, something that you enjoyed for myself and anyone out there to consume?
Yeah, so it's interesting you brought this up, and I don't know why this was the first thing that I thought of, but we posted this week in our school program. We do this power hour, and we talk about branding, marketing, and building relationships, and it as being really the thing that helps you to generate leads all the time is by branding yourself and marketing and doing the relationship building. And Adam actually found this guy on Instagram that did a reel, and his name is Sharon Shrivastava. I think I butchered that, but I'll send you the link. But
and we'll put it in the notes.
He basically summarized the best way to get to be in front of people to pitch them what you want to pitch to them. and he talks about deals of the week and how to target, like be specific in the targeting, but do it in a way where you're going to get the reply. And it's this really good clip. I don't want to give it all away because I want you to watch it.
Okay.
But it really is, it's a perfect example of how you can get people to reply without being too salesy or being, it really just leads to a natural marketing situation where you can ask somebody for an opportunity to sit down because they've replied to your message. So it's a really good clip. It's very short, but I would highly recommend anyone who does sales to watch this. Anyone who's in that business development role in their companies, this is a great clip for you to see.
Cool. Thank you. I'm looking forward to watching it.
Awesome.
Mine for you is longer.
Okay.
Well, initially, based on it, we talked yesterday. I found the little book that I was telling you about yesterday.
Oh yeah,
How Successful People Lead by John Maxwell. I mean, he's got a ton of leadership books, but this one is like a small little handbook that talks about basically the 5 levels of leadership. But I didn't choose that one.
Okay.
That was just something that I wanted to show. What I chose for you is an episode of the Tim Ferriss Show, which is a podcast.
Okay.
It's episode number 678. And this is maybe my favorite podcast episode I've ever listened to of any podcast of all time. His guest is Jake Muse, and I hope I'm saying the name right. He's the owner and CEO of Maui Nui Venison. And the way he tells stories sucked me in to this podcast. And the themes throughout were about leadership, team building, like feedback and processes, a lot of the stuff that we literally just spoke about yesterday.
Yep.
And I've listened to this episode 2 or 3 times now. I'll probably listen to it another 2 or 3 times this year. I think it's a really interesting one. I mean, the business that they're in is incredible. The way they got into it is also incredible. Just a brief background for it. It's a venison company, so they are killing the invasive species of axis deer on, I believe, the main island of Hawaii.
Okay.
And these are like wild animals that they are killing and capturing and processing in a very short period of time, all to like USDA standards, which is something they go through, which is super cool. And they find that it has like higher nutrient density, higher protein content. I looked at their website. It's insanely expensive to get just like a pound of this meat. So I've never had any of it, but it's just a really cool story for how they built this company and how they found the need for this in the first place. And the big themes of like leadership, team building, and systems and processes, I think is a cool one for anyone to listen to out there.
All right. I will definitely listen to it before our next meeting.
I'll send you the link.
Yep.
Well, I don't know how long it is. It might be a couple hours, so that's why I said it's a long one.
I'll do it on my walks in the morning. I'll get through it.
It's cool. Yeah, it took me a couple days in the car,
Yeah.
Going around.
Yeah.
I listened to it for 40 minutes at a time wherever I was going. So cool. That's the conscious consumption segment. I want to just end it off first by thanking you for being here and announcing that you guys are going to be the sponsor of this next round of Disrupting Long Island podcasts. This is the first time we've done anything like this. I thought of you guys immediately to be the first sponsor because, one, I'm having conversations with purple collar professionals on this podcast. 90% of the people that I'm speaking to are those people. And I think every single one of them would benefit from consuming your content, going to YouTube, going to your school, listening to your podcast, or just simply having a conversation with you guys. I mean, I hope that everyone that I have on this podcast will want to speak to you and Adam and learn how you can help them, but also how they can just use you guys as a resource as well.
Absolutely.
I can speak
No.
from personal experience that I work with you guys. So full disclosure there.
Yep.
You guys are my coaches, and I mean, I've been seeing great results. I've been seeing growth in myself, growth in my business, and I'm very grateful to the two of you, and
Yep.
grateful that you're going to be the sponsors for, the next
Yeah,
few
we
few
are.
episodes.
We're so excited to be part of this. And thank you for having me on. We, you just made me feel really good. Because you're doing so tremendous, and you're growing, and the amount of stuff that you've done in just we've only been working together 6 months.
If that, yeah.
If that, right? It's not even 6 months yet, but like it's insane the amount that has happened for you and has changed and really moved you into such a great place. And that's what we're really here to do. This is Adam and I really want to just help people. We do a lot of different things to just put ourselves out there so that people can get access to us and get the information. And we're happy to be the sponsors of the podcast. And it's going to be a great experience, and we really appreciate you thinking of us for that.
Yeah, I mean, thank you guys for everything you do. I'm looking forward to hopefully having Tom on to maybe bookend, Adam on to maybe bookend this another time, because I have a whole day of podcast recordings coming up in a couple of days.
Awesome.
So we'll release this one. I'll have all those guests on, and then hopefully I can do one with Adam to maybe to close it out. I think that would be really cool.
That sounds great, man.
Yeah. So thank you again. And, I appreciate everything that you're doing. I think you guys are, incredible. I'm working with you. So I don't
Thanks,
work
man.
with
We
many
appreciate
people.
it.
Yeah.
And we appreciate it very much.
All right, Tom. Well, thanks again. And we'll talk to you soon.
All right.